Welcome everyone. We're live on the Northern Affinity social media pages. So we're on our LinkedIn page and we're on Facebook and now on Twitter page as well. So for those who are watching live, if anyone does have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them in the comments box and we'll try to cover them. People who are watching it maybe afterwards after the live video, feel free again to put any comments or questions in, and we can always put them to myself or to Anita at a later time, and hopefully come back to you. So, as you can see, I'm here with Anita Pickersgill, who I won't steal her thunder. I'll let her introduce herself in a minute. Now, to give a bit of context to all this, credit control, debt recovery. For many people, I'm sure Anita will agree with me, it's one of them areas that they don't really like getting involved in. For various reasons. So it's great that I have people like Anita with her knowledge and experience to do so, and to do that on behalf of our businesses. So without further ado, Anita, I'll hand it over to you. If you want to explain who you are, where you're from, and then we'll jump into some questions about the kind of things that you do.
Hello, everyone. A lot of people do already know me because I'm all over LinkedIn, like the ever-ending rash, I think, at the moment. I am the Director of Recoveries at iCredit Management, and expected to be very, very busy very, very soon. We basically are spreading the word, helping SMEs. And you're right, debt recovery is a word that a lot of people don't want to discuss. It's like you can kill a conversation in 2 seconds just by saying debt recovery. We're not bailiffs. We're not people that go knocking on your doors. We can work with bailiffs, but they're the end of the game. They're not the beginning. And the credit control aspect and the credit management is so important. And coming out of this lockdown will be even more so. Definitely. So it needs thinking about now.
Absolutely. So, going back to the current situation we're in, obviously was it 10 or 11 weeks? I'm lost now into a lockdown. How have things been? How have things been for you, for the business and the customers and everything like that so far?
Different. I think, like a lot of businesses, initially you're perhaps like a rabbit in the headlights of a vehicle. You can see this problem coming, it's suddenly here, and then you're amongst it and you're thinking, what do we do? And then that moves from this immense frenzy of an over-accelerated move onto digital, because that is one of the key ways that people can get in touch. So obviously you've got people like Zoom making a bigger turnover out of this. You have takeaways will have done really well in a lot of areas. And because of a need, and that is the core of any business, establish a need. Where there's a need, you have a service. And that's the real thing. Networking has I've actually become quite proficient in Zoom. But a positive of that is I've been able to connect with people that I wouldn't normally have been able to perhaps touch base with, because geographically they've been in different places. So the limitations have been moved in a way by Zoom, making it easier. So that's one of the massive differences. Working from home is another one. And reevaluated, even for us in our industry, how are we going to work with this, and planning for that and keeping an eye on the government regulations that keep changing and keep coming down, and the loans and what businesses are doing. So those are the key things that we've been sort of looking at, really.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I guess is interesting is that kind of the sensitivity, I guess, of the situation. If how are people finding it from point of view? And if someone owes some money to a business, they probably feel a bit less likely to knock on the door and ask for that money right now. How have you found that, or is that the case?
Absolutely. At the beginning, I think time stood still, and then everybody's thinking about sales and growth and generating turnover, getting money in from the grants, furloughing staff. And then right at the bottom of the queue comes this. And there's been almost a reluctance, because it's like, should we ask for our money? Should we be getting paid? Is it the right thing to do? Is it morally right? Is it ethically right? Absolutely it is. There's no harm in asking to be paid, but how you ask, that's the important thing. And doing the process properly. You know, you don't just send a Rottweiler down to somebody's door and demand, because just like your own business, there's a lot of other businesses will be using up cash reserves. They may genuinely not have the cash in the bank to pay all of it at once. They might be able to pay some of it. There's never been a better time than now to learn, to better understand. There's so many people offering discounted rates, free webinars, and things like this. They're all education tools that people can learn from. And there is a saying, a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing, but it can also open your eyes to the fact that you don't know enough and need to ask for help. And that's where we come in. When you realize, I need help to ask for this money. And I also need help to get this money, because my suppliers are going to be asking me. Time doesn't stand still. And I'm afraid saying I've been at home and unable to get into my business isn't going to work in every case, because we have emails, we have mobile phones. Absolutely. And there's always an obligation to deal with issues. So that's pretty much how it's affected people referring it in.
Yeah.
It's been slower.
Yeah, I mean, one thing, obviously, I know you're very big on the whole and the credit control strategy. Essentially, you know, the prevention is cheaper than the cure type of thought. Is you know, getting the process in place. So, do you want to kind of in a normal world, if you like, explain to us what that is, what that means, and how that works?
What that means basically is, if you get your credit management and credit control process right, it is literally about the management. Just like a household manages its budget, a business has to manage its budget and its own housekeeping. And a lot of growing businesses don't have this ready equipped in their toolkit. And they think of all the other peripherals that are going to help grow their business. How do they get finance? Have they got insurance, the staff, the training, their HR? Then the sales. Sales is key, but cash is king. You can't do any of that without cash. And you get the credit management is basically the whole process from when you put a tender out or when you receive an order or an inquiry, whether it's a new customer or existing, you need to go through a process that's systematic, that's everybody goes through that process. You can have little offshoots in the way, but in theory and in practice, you need rules. Just like when you have a toddler, you have parameters and you have the naughty step, or sorry, you can't use the word naughty anymore, but you know, it's a thing about a timeout. You have timeouts through that process. You need correctly worded letters, emails. You can think that QuickBooks or Xero, they're both very good and they have the tools in there to help you with credit management, but you are the one putting the information in. They're all open to human error. And if you are making the persistent same errors, then you have a flawed process or you have no process. You get that wrong when it comes to the back end and you're struggling to get paid, we struggle even harder to help you get paid. So get it right, invest in it, work with it, grow it with your business. And then when you have to come to people like us, because you should never pay really a debt recovery firm up front. There's enough good ones out there. We're one of them. No recovery, no commission. There's no reason to be thinking it's going to cost a fortune. It doesn't. We're here to help businesses, not to rip the shirts off people's backs. And unfortunately, within the industry, some of that has historically been the case, but it's not anymore. And that's the thing. It's really important. Terms and conditions, don't just have them in the office drawer or on your website. Understand them, use them, work with them. It's amazing how many businesses don't even know what they're saying. Then when you have disputes, you have them to back you up. Sign-off documents, new account opening forms. There's so many things to think about that people don't think about because they think the old saying, it won't happen. But things do. And when they do, it's about being prepared. So certainly prevention is better than cure. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone watching this who's got maybe a small business or a very new business, where would they start with kind of getting processes in place? Any kind of hints and tips for them?
There are a number of support networks out there. Northern Affinity is one of them. You can get, even online, you can get good quality webinars. There are good quality learning tools on there. Like anything, it depends on their degree of where they're at in their business and their own level of comfort. Because even I can sit and read legal jargon documents online and go away and get a dictionary to translate what it means, because it's not my area of expertise. But they can pick up the phone to businesses like ours and they can say, this is me, this is where I'm at. Can you give me any advice? A little bit of advice isn't going to cost anything. And if it means that they can go away with that phone call thinking, oh, well, I'm glad I had that chat and I think I need to sort of take this a little bit further, then that's a good thing. Equally, if that caller said the way you're doing it is absolutely fine at the moment, revisit it in 6 months, then that's a good thing as well. Because both parties of that call have done something positive about it. It's when people don't do anything about it that it becomes an issue. It should be in the top 10 of the startup pack of we need to think about this, because if we don't, then 3 years down the line, we could hit a problem that could take our business away.
Absolutely.
And we're all in it to make a living, aren't we, at the end of the day? So,
absolutely. So, I'd be interested to know kind of what common. I'm sure you come along and see various mistakes that businesses do, and quite often they're the same mistakes. So, what are the common mistakes businesses make for the whole recovery of debts?
Not using terms and conditions. In a lot of cases, certainly in subcontractors, they'll transact over WhatsApp or a text message. Not understanding the issue of legal entity. Who exactly are they dealing with? They will quite often sometimes put a person's name on the invoice when that person's actually an employee and not actually liable for the debt.
Okay.
Another common one is thinking that if they put their payment terms on the invoice or the back of the invoice, then that's covered. It isn't. Your terms and conditions and the contract you create has to be agreed before you provide the service. So putting it on the invoice is too late. It can act as a really good reminder. Also, not putting the bank name on, the bank payment details. That's another classic. Not getting work signed off. And you wouldn't believe it, but sometimes not putting any payment terms on at all.
Right, okay.
Or indeed the business name at the top. They don't put the address because they're sending it by email. But there are specific things that an invoice has to have on it to make it a valid document. So those are some classics in credit management that we see regularly. And also, money claims online is really good when it works. But if you think a dispute is going to disappear just because you go to money claims online, there is no genie in the box. It doesn't disappear. And if it's disputed, you can't take it any further. You have to deal with the dispute. And that can be an expensive issue. So it's better to have a process that catches your disputes, that forces you to deal with them and look at the value of them. Because quite often pride comes before a fall, and you can have a huge costly argument over a reasonably small amount when you could have sort of said, look, let's have a discussion, let's compromise this. And you can live to fight another day. Choose your battles wisely, as they say. Litigation can be really expensive.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I'd be interested to know, obviously, I'm sure you get phone calls on a daily basis from people saying, I am owed X amount of money from very relatively small amounts to big amounts. What are the typical issues that you see when people come to you at that point? What are the have you got any kind of interesting stories that have come up from things like that?
I have quite a diverse. I've had people historically. I've had a gentleman who was a debtor sort of say, I can't pay, I've broken my leg. Well, that doesn't stop him paying.
Yeah.
And when people do come and inquire, one of the worst things that is frustrating for me is, when they say, well, it's only a small amount, it's not worth it. Well, if you add all those small amounts up on your ledger, that comes to a significant amount. If your average invoice value is £100 and nobody pays, you're out of business. And because people talk in business, they go to networking events, they message each other, they're connected on Facebook. Not all their conversations are in the office, even more so now. Mm. And if you get a reputation in your business as, oh, well, yeah, you can get that from them, and don't bother if you don't pay, they don't do anything about it. Hey, presto, you're going to be the magnet for that level of business. And if you set your stall out with a degree of respect for yourself, and you say, I will allow people who are honest with me to flex a bit, if they're genuine, then you're going to get people communicating with you. You're going to get a better level of customer in your debtor book, because you can help train them into how you work. And we can train your ledger. If you've got a bad ledger, you can train it into a good one. But you have to be quite determined to do it. And one of the key things is the cost. They think, it's going to cost me, why should I pay? Well, what they need to remember at that point is it's not cost prohibitive. And because it's debt recovery, there's something about it that goes against the grain. But wherever it's sat there as unpaid, you've made no profit and you've lost the cost of your costs. So the older it gets, if it's past 3 months, in most cases, your profit is eroding every day. So the quicker you get it, even if you do lose a small percentage of it, the chances are that you're still better off in your cash flow, because at the time you start, you've 100% of nothing. And in many cases, the customer pays most, if not all, of the costs. But we do it as a day job and sometimes a night job, believe it or not. But we can think like that because we do it every day. But the small SME doesn't think that way. It's a business owner, when they're small, their business is their baby. And they nurture it, they cherish it. They shouldn't have to do this. They shouldn't have to ask to be paid. Or they only have a few small customers. But as they grow, those customers grow, their turnover grows, and then they can't keep up with the momentum. And that's when you have to start bringing in the extra staff or upskilling or outsourcing. And you can outsource this as easily as you can upskill to do it. Whichever works for the business model, the better.
Of course. Yeah. So I think overall, you're kind of generally saying get that process right before it even becomes an issue. And then if and when issues arise, you're in a lot better position.
You are. You've got the ammunition in your arsenal to deal with it. And the sooner you refer your problem accounts, bearing in mind if you've got the process right, there should be less, then it becomes habitual and it becomes a standard, not an exception. And it actually then starts returning dividends into your business because your cash flow moves better. And it actually makes a difference if you're looking for finance, because the better your ledger looks, the better your systems, the better a deal you're going to get, because you'll be seen as a lesser risk. And it's all about risk. At the moment, some of that's gone out the window because of the grants, but they're going to need paying back in a lot of cases. So going out of this, even though there are things the government have put in place that sort of stop the hard line actions that will allow businesses time to trade out, it's more important than ever that you keep the cash moving to be able to trade out.
No.
Absolutely. You can't not do it. You need to do it.
Agreed.
No matter how small a debt is, whether it's £50, £100, you need to be looking at it. And if you think it's 50 quid, nobody's going to help us, you pass us a ledger with 20, 50 quid on, you'll get a return on that. And even if it's only 50 quid, we can discuss things because it has to be had. The discussions need to be had.
No, I think absolutely need to thank you. And just finally from me, so if anybody wants to kind of find out a bit more about yourself and your business, or contact you, what are the best places to go for them?
They can find me on LinkedIn. They can find our company page, iCredit Management Limited, on LinkedIn. We're also on Facebook. We have two on there. One is the debt recovery, one is the credit management side, but both can be contacted for either.
Brilliant.
And you can find us on our website. If you put in debt recovery leads, I think we're one of the first ones that pops up. But the important thing is get the help now. And we are here to help, not to hinder. We're here to help. And it's been an absolute pleasure, actually, because if it helps get the word out there and get people to sit up, and I call it meerkat syndrome now. Get the little meerkat up and get things moving forward. Let's get some of the positivity moving now. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Anita. That's been really useful. I'm sure a lot of people have picked up a lot from that. So yes, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Have a good day, Anita. All right. Thank you. Bye. Bye.